Hey there, Frontiers fam. I'm obviously standing in a little bit of a different location today. I'm in one of the warehouses of a production company called BNY Production, and their story is an absolutely fascinating one. And it starts with one man having enough faith in Jesus to leave the familiar behind to pursue something greater. The outcome was unknown, and the outcome was scary. And the ending had yet to be written or even revealed, because nothing happens without first taking a step of faith. It all started with a man from Indonesia named Anton. See, decades ago, Anton moved halfway around the world, all the way from Indonesia to the US, in order to provide a better life for his family. And the first job that he was ever able to secure was driving truck right here in the Siouxland area. But see, Anton was not like most truck drivers. See, Anton is a man that is wired to seek God's blessings in all that he does. Anton realized early on that owning a truck would save him so much more money than leasing a truck like he was doing. So Anton lived an extremely frugal life, and he sent money back home to take care of his family, and he saved everything else that he possibly could. And finally, after months and months of hard work and saving, Anton was finally able to purchase his very own truck. But again, Anton thinks a little differently than most. Anton quickly realized he could provide even more for his family if he owned a second truck. So he saved up and he purchased a second truck and leased it out to someone else. And somewhere around this part of the story, Anton decides to call up his brother Nehemiah, who's also living in Indonesia, and told Nehemiah to come on over to the US to take this big step of faith to come join Anton, because Anton had a job for him. So Nehemiah, spurred by the desire to provide for his family too, he moved from Indonesia to the US to drive truck with his brother, Anton. And soon enough, Anton was able to start his own trucking company right here in Siouxland, and now has dozens, if not hundreds, of different trucks and routes and drivers that are a part of his company. But that is not the end of the story. See, Anton's brother, Nehemiah, had two children, two sons named Bill and Ben. And after a God-given dream, Bill and Ben started a band because of that dream, even though they knew absolutely nothing about music and they had never even touched an instrument in their entire life. Within just a few short years, they were able to start a band named Bread of Stone. And Bread of Stone began this journey in writing and playing music. And it was a journey that they never could have possibly imagined. But once again, they took that little seed and they took that little step of faith, and something absolutely unimaginable took place. The next thing they know, Bread of Stone is starting to play with some of the who's who in Christian music, and they realize early on that in order for them to get on bigger tours with more well-known bands and to have larger tours in Christian music, often the opening bands were chosen by the headlining band because of their ability to help with the tour by providing a certain level of production value. So Bread of Stone saw this opportunity and they started to invest more into providing whatever production value they possibly could. And it all kept growing from there. There came a point where Bread of Stone had started to amass so much gear and equipment, and most importantly, great relationships throughout the entire industry with different vendors and manufacturers and bands, that they decided to launch their own production company called BNY Productions. And well, in my humble opinion, that's when things really started to take off for them. And so the brothers, with their band and the rest of their team, began to focus more and more of their time and energy, money, and even staffing into B&Y production, along with Bread of Stone, and have grown massively in these last few years. To date, well, and I'll be honest, this is the very definition of name dropping, but to date, Bread of Stone has shared the stage with some of the biggest names in Christian music since the turn of the century, including bands such as Newsboys, For King and Country, Mercy Me, Skillet, Switchfoot, Toby Mac, Casting Crowns, Hawk Nelson, Bethel Worship, Hillsong Worship, Jeremy Camp, Crowder, Reliant K, Super Chick, and so many more. And as a production company, they have worked in some of the largest and biggest venues in North America, including running production for Lifelight, which was the largest Christian music festival in North America. They have worked in Big Ten stadiums. They have helped with all kinds of other things, including Creation Fest East and some of the largest churches in North America, such as Hillsong and Elevation Church. Bill and Ben and Bread of Stone and B&Y Productions have now become the go-to consultants for brands like Meyer Sound and Waves and Shure and so many others. And they continue to be on the cutting edge of breakthrough technology in the realm of live and studio production. And that's where I'm standing right now after breaking in. They don't know I'm here, so shh, make sure you don't tell anybody. But it all started with one man wanting to better his family's life, moving to the US, bringing his brother with him, starting a band out of nowhere for no particular reason other than a God-given dream. And now a recorded video that's being done that shouldn't be done. And it all started with the same thing. One single step of faith. And surely there were moments of fear along the way, because anytime you try something new, you risk losing something familiar. And that is hard. It is difficult to take the step into something new because you know that there's going to be a pain of losing something that is familiar for you. By getting deeper and discovering our calling, we will always encounter the worst four-letter F word in the entire English language. No. Not that one. Get your minds out of the gutter. No, it's the word fear. Because we all get scared. And we get so scared, the word scared doesn't even cover it. We get scurred. Scurred is scared, but with emphasis. Let me say it again. Anytime you try something new, you risk something familiar. And that is a scurry thought. In our current series, Get Deeper, it's all about getting deeper in your faith by discovering who God wants you to be and where he wants you to go. And that starts by knowing your why. The reason you were created in the first place. Your why. And this doesn't have to be some giant micro revelation. Often it starts by simply knowing who Jesus is, knowing he loves you, and that he calls us his children. Inevitably, when you find your why and follow your calling, you're going to face fears. The fear that you're too old or too late or too young or too lazy, too poor, too ugly, too fat, or that you're not enough, not qualified enough, not old enough, not smart enough, not gifted enough or skilled enough, or that you're just in the wrong family or you had the wrong upbringing, the wrong side of town, the wrong grades, wrong color of skin, wrong hair color, wrong circle of friends, or just wrong circumstances. Don't listen to the twos or the nots or the wrongs. That's just fear talking. And those are the excuses that fear gives. See, fear isn't necessarily a bad thing, but being controlled by fear is. We cannot let fear keep us from the pursuit of God's call in our life. So my encouragement to you today is to embrace your fears because it's proof that you're on the right path. Did you catch that? Fear is proof that you're on the right path. Being on the wrong path doesn't produce fear because you're not risking the familiar enough to even be scared in the first place. So really, we should almost be finding fear in our life and leaning into that fear to move forward. Because fear is often the indicator that that's where we need to be. In fact, I'll say it this way. The pathway to your greatest potential leads through your greatest fears. Let me share with you just a few just incredible scriptures that might help you take that step of faith. In Isaiah 41, verse 10, it says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Don't be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold on to you with my righteous right hand." You don't have to be afraid because God is with you every step of the way. And when God is with you, how could we be afraid? Because he's there. Romans 8:15, "For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear. Instead, you received the spirit of adoption by whom we cry out, 'Abba, Father.'" You are a part of God's family. And when you can trust that your dad is there, there's nothing to fear. He's going to catch you. He's going to be there for you. Fear is nothing more than a lack of trust. So the question is, will you trust your daddy to take care of you? My little 2-year-old daughter, I just think of her when she says daddy, and she just knows that no matter what, I will be there. In 1 John 4:18, it says, "There is no fear in love. Instead, perfect love drives out fear, because fear involves punishment." So the one who fears is not complete in love with their father, in love with the father's love. Fear involves punishment. But what punishment are you worried about? Failure? Pain? Regret? Because the only failure, pain, or regret that will ever take root will be the failure to be in God's family, to accept the Father's love, the pain of being separated him for eternity, and the regret of not doing what God had called you to do in the first place. There is no other failure that we have to worry about. Everything else is a setback. Everything else is a learning curve. Everything else is a part of God's design to move us forward as we continue to take those steps of faith along the way. So go out, get scurred. Don't just embrace fear, seek it. Get out there and take that step of faith that God is calling you to take. It's okay to be scurred. It's okay to have fear. But our faith is greater because our God is greater than our fear. I hope and pray that we can be a church that is never afraid to take the step that we need to take, that we as a church can always choose faith over fear. Because I mean it when I say that, church, we're just getting started. So let's go out, let's get scurred, and let's go after it.